Hello, I'm Moira Alderson with the BBC News. The drug agency in the United States says that this year it's seized enough of the man-made opioid fentanyl to kill every American. The Drug Enforcement Administration says its officers found the equivalent of nearly 400 million deadly doses of the drug across the country. Jessica McCallan reports.
Fentanyl is 50 times more potent than heroin and highly addictive. The DEA says it's currently the deadliest drug threat facing the United States. Most of the more than 100,000 overdose deaths suffered in the year to 2022 can be traced back to the opioid. The DEA says most of the fentanyl is trafficked into the US by Mexico's Sinaloa and Jalisco drug cartels, who make it in secret laboratories using chemicals sourced in China. They design the pills to look identical to real prescription medications.
US media say the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is expected to visit Washington on Wednesday. It would be his first trip abroad since the war in Ukraine began in February. Reports say the White House is preparing for his visit. Our State Department correspondent is Barbara Pletasher.
The U.S. media is reporting that if Mr. Zelensky does come, he would probably meet congressional leadership and national security chiefs from both parties, and that he would meet President Biden at the White House. We have heard from the House representative who co-chairs the Congressional Ukraine Caucus, and she said there had been ongoing efforts to try to bring him to the Capitol to address a joint session of Congress. We do need to stress, though, that this has not been officially confirmed and that security concerns might change any plans that are already underway.
Lawmakers in the US are meeting to decide whether to make public the tax returns of the former president, Donald Trump, which he has fought to keep secret. The Democrat-led committee in the House of Representatives is meeting behind closed doors. The decision is being taken 2 weeks before the Democratic Party in the House surrenders its majority to the Republicans. Afghan women are being suspended from universities until further notice. The move by the Education Ministry is expected to take effect immediately. It further restricts women's access to formal education, as the BBC's Yelda Hakim explains.
We knew it was coming. Afghan girls and women expected it. But I suppose in many ways there was hope against hope that they wouldn't go this far. For 458 days, girls over the age of 12 have been banned from school since the Taliban swept to power. And yet, because girls were going to university, because some of the women were going to private universities, there was a feeling that someday the Taliban would overturn this policy of girls not going to school because the universities remained open. And here we are today.
BBC News. The governor of Nairobi in Kenya says his office has started paying the bills for dozens of patients who'd been detained in hospitals over unpaid medical fees. Some had been held for several months. Human rights groups have long criticised hospitals in Kenya for their policy on unpaid bills. Congress in Peru has agreed to carry out a new vote on a proposal to bring general elections forward to December next year. The measure is a key part of the government's plan to defuse 2 weeks of protests, during which at least 21 people have died. They began after the left-wing leader, Pedro Castillo, was impeached and detained. Millions of Argentinians have welcomed home their World Cup winning football team at a victory parade in Buenos Aires. But after 5 hours, the parade was ended after 2 supporters jumped from a bridge onto the open-topped bus that carried the players. One fell off and got injured. The squad then boarded a helicopter to fly over the centre of the city. Scientists believe they've found the first known example of a mammal being eaten by a dinosaur. Paleontologists identified a tiny foot behind the fossilised ribcage of a crow-sized Microraptor. Victoria Gill has this report.
This was a feathered dinosaur that lived about 120 million years ago in what is now northeast China. The fossil had been in a museum collection there for more than a decade before one of the scientists spotted something beneath its ribcage, a tiny but very distinct mammal foot. This dinosaur, it appears, died with a mouse-sized mammal in its stomach. Paleontologists have long known that mammals and dinosaurs coexisted, and there's even evidence of one badger-sized mammal called Repenomamus eating a small dinosaur. But this, the researchers say, is the first direct evidence that this particular very small dinosaur preyed on even smaller mammals.
BBC News.